I had been feeling a dull ache in my stomach for a few days, so I decided to stop by the hospital for a checkup and pick up a prescription. Just as I stepped out of the doctor's office, I spotted two familiar figures, my wife and the man she always called the one that got away. By all accounts, she was supposed to be 3 states over on a business trip. A cold knot of dread tightened in my chest. My legs moved on their own, drawing me toward them, desperate for an explanation that made sense. They were coming out of the surgical wing. My wife, Danielle, looked pale and fragile, while Ben White was right there at her side, his hands steadying her with intimate care. The words that drifted from their lips hit me like a physical blow. "Danny, the baby is gone," Ben said, his voice thick with concern. "How are you going to tell him?" "I don't know yet," Danielle whispered, her voice trembling. "He was so excited about this pregnancy. It'll break him. But right now, the priority is you and JJ. You just got back to the States. Everything is a struggle. It's easier this way, so I can look after you both. We're still young. Mark and I can always try again later. I told him I'd be away for a few days, so I'll just check into a hotel for now. You go home and take care of JJ. Once I'm feeling a bit stronger in a couple of days, I'll come over to help out." Listening to them felt like a serrated blade twisting in my heart. The agony was so sharp my vision blurred, and I nearly hit the floor. As I watched their retreating backs, their voices fading into the hospital hum, I couldn't help but ask myself, what has the last 5 years of my life been for? I don't even remember the drive home. I just found myself collapsing onto the sofa, my body feeling hollowed out, as if I didn't even have the strength to lift my hand. The shrill ring of my phone finally jolted me back to reality. I forced myself to reach into my pocket, swiping the screen without even checking the caller ID. It was Danielle. "Hey, babe," she said, her tone sweet and domestic. "Did you remember to eat breakfast? I know I'm not there to nag you, but don't skip meals just because you're sleeping in. Your stomach has been acting up lately, and the doctor said skipping breakfast is the worst thing for it." Listening to her chatter, I realized that under normal circumstances, I would have been incredibly moved. I would have wanted to fly to her side, just to hold her. Now, her voice only made me feel nauseous. Every word of affection felt like a carefully crafted performance. Maybe she sensed my silence, because her voice took on a cautious, testing edge. "Mark, why are you so quiet? Are you feeling okay?" I wanted to give her a chance. 5 years of marriage had to count for something. My stomach was acting up again. I went to the clinic this morning. As I was leaving, I saw 2 people who looked exactly like you and Ben. If you hadn't told me you were out of town, I would have sworn it was you. There was a loud thud on the other end, like a phone hitting the floor. Then came a scramble of noise, followed by a long, heavy silence. I couldn't tell if she was searching for a lie or trying to suppress her panic. A long moment passed before she spoke again. "Hello, Mark? Can you hear me? Sorry, I dropped my phone and the signal went weird for a second." "I can hear you perfectly," I said. "Go on. Your stomach is acting up again? You actually went to the hospital? Is it that bad? If it weren't for this project at the office, I'd fly back right now. Look, why don't you take a few days off? I'll pull some overtime here and try to get back as soon as I can." She was an executive at a top-tier firm for a reason. She knew exactly how to use a barrage of affection to bury a problem. It wasn't going to be that easy this time. "Danielle," I raised my voice suddenly, and I could practically hear her flinch through the line. "Tell me the truth. Is there something you're hiding from me?" "No. No, of course not, honey," she stammered, her voice thick with fake tears. "I'm really on this trip. I can FaceTime you from the hotel room if you want. Mark, you're the person I love most in the world. Why would I lie to you?" I let out a harsh, dry laugh. "I'm just messing with you. I figured Ben must have a twin or something. They really did look like you, though. Don't overthink it. Just get back to work. I'm not feeling great, so I'm going to hang up." I had given her the opportunity. I desperately wanted to hear her explain it, to come clean. I loved her so much, and she had always been so good to me. I wanted to believe there was a reason, but she chose the lie. I didn't want a woman who had checked out of our marriage. This house was mine. I'd paid the down payment, even if she helped with the mortgage later. Her salary was higher than mine, and she'd insisted on covering the daily expenses since we married. I'd wanted to contribute more or pool our accounts, but she'd refused, saying we should save one person's income while spending the others to build a nest egg. Since I was leaving, I'd just take my own accounts and go. She could have the house and everything in it. It seemed like a fair trade for my freedom. I started packing immediately, sticking to just my clothes and personal items. It didn't amount to much, just 2 suitcases. I planned to move out the next morning. To my surprise, Danielle returned early the next day. She burst through the front door, calling my name frantically, searching room by room. I was in the middle of brushing my teeth when the bathroom door flew open. The moment she saw me, The visible tension in her eyes evaporated. She looked like she had just survived a disaster. She lunged forward, throwing her arms around me, as if we'd been separated for years. Mark, I was calling for you. Why didn't you answer? You scare me to death. I thought you'd left me. I stayed motionless, eventually pulling away to rinse my mouth. I wiped my face and looked at her coldly. Why would you think I'd leave? Unless you've done something to deserve it. Perhaps sensing my uncharacteristic coldness, she let go, her eyes welling with hurt. Mark, I heard your stomach was bad, so I worked through the night to finish my meetings and rushed back. Instead of being happy to see me, you're acting like this. She did look exhausted, and I could see the lingering weakness from her surgery. It was clear she cared, but I felt no warmth. In fact, I felt a wave of revulsion. She was smart. Whenever she faced a question she couldn't answer, she redirected the conversation to my emotions. But I was done. I took her hand, led her to the living room, and sat her down. I looked her in the eye. Danielle, tell me what's going on. I don't want secrets between us. Between my direct gaze and the phone call from the night before, she must have realized I knew something. Her eyes turned red, and the tears started to fall. I felt nothing. I just stared at her, demanding an answer with my silence. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, Mark, I messed up. I lied to you. I was on a business trip. It's all my fault. I overexerted myself at work, and there were complications with the pregnancy. I thought you were too busy to help, and Ben just got back to town and had nothing to do, so I called him to take me to the doctor. But I didn't know. Solby, I didn't know. She clutched her chest, her expression so full of agony it would have won an Oscar. Looking at her, a chilling thought crossed my mind. Was everything she ever felt for me just as staged as this? I didn't pull her into my arms. I watched her performance with cold detachment. My only grief was for the child that would never be born. Mark, we lost the baby. I was so afraid you couldn't handle the news, so I tried to hide it until I found a better time to tell you. I didn't mean to deceive you. A sharp knock at the door cut her off. We rarely had visitors. I'll get it, Danielle said, moving quickly before I could process who it might be. The moment the door opened, Ben's voice came rushing in. Danny, I went to your hotel with breakfast this morning, and they said you checked out. We agreed you'd stay put for a few days. You haven't recovered yet. If you don't rest, you're going to have permanent health issues. He sounded so distraught you'd think they were the married couple. Just come in, Danielle said, stepping aside. I got up early and drove all over the city to get your favorites, Ben continued, stepping into the foyer with several bags. I got those artisan breakfast sandwiches you like, the donuts from the place across town, the special roast coffee. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw me sitting there. His smile faltered. Oh, Mark, I didn't think you'd be home yet. I only bought enough for two, so this is... He scratched his head, looking embarrassed. The sheer volume of food he was holding could have fed 5 people. It's fine, I said, standing up. I've suddenly lost my appetite. You two enjoy. I'm heading into the office. I grabbed my jacket. As I brushed past Danielle, she grabbed my arm. Mark, sit down and eat. I'm not hungry. You can't skip meals with your stomach the way it is. I'll grab something at work. I'm going to be late. As I walked out and the door began to swing shut, I heard Ben's voice behind me. You're in this condition and you're still worried about him? Eat something. We have to get JJ to his school carnival later. The audacity was staggering. He was telling my wife not to worry about me, so she could focus on his life. Even if we were through, I wasn't going to let him walk all over me. After a grueling day at work, I returned home exhausted and hungry, only to find the house in total darkness. Usually, Danielle beat me home. She'd run to the door, help me with my coat, give me a kiss, and tell me dinner was ready. It was the one warm light at the end of a cold, corporate day. I flipped the kitchen light on. The stove was cold, the counters bare. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. I grabbed 2 beers from the fridge and a bag of peanuts and started drinking. I knew ice-cold beer was the worst thing for my stomach, but I needed to feel numb. The pain in my heart was far worse than any ulcer. My phone buzzed. It was Danielle. Mark? JJ fell off the balance beam during his school event today. His ankle is huge. We're at the ER. Just order pizza or something. Don't wait up for me. Are you coming home tonight? I asked. I don't know. He won't stop crying, and I can't leave him. Be a good boy, Mark. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. She hung up before I could say a word. The rejection stung, and the more I thought about it, the more the memories bubbled up. It wasn't that I couldn't let go. It was that our entire history had been so perfect, or so I thought. We met in college. Danielle was the girl everyone noticed the second she stepped on a campus. She was a campus belle, but unlike the other popular girls, she was warm and outgoing. I was the quiet one, tall, decent-looking, good grades, but socially awkward. I had a few close friends in the dorm, but that was it. I wanted romance, but I was too shy to chase it. Then she crashed in my life. I remember coming back from the gym and seeing a girl tripped on the stairs, her books scattered everywhere. I ran to help her. When she looked up, her beauty actually stunned me. "You're squeezing my hand too hard," she'd whispered. I've been so nervous, I didn't realize my own strength. Are you okay? Do you need help? I twisted my ankle on the stairs. I can't really stand up. Without thinking, I picked her up bridal style and ran toward the campus clinic. "Put me down. I can walk if you support me," she protested, her face turning bright red. "I got you," I'd said, and I didn't stop until we reached the doctor. The whole thing was caught on camera by some students and ended up on the school forums. My roommates teased me for being a secret player, but I didn't care. A few days later, she found me on the way to the dining hall. She wanted to thank me by taking me to dinner. From there, we were inseparable. She pulled me out of my shell, introduced me to her world, and encouraged me to speak up. I became the man I am today, a man on the fast track to a C-suite position, largely because of her. But now, the sun that had lit up my life was shining on someone else. I opened another beer, then another. I wanted to drown the pain. About 30 minutes later, I passed out on the sofa. I woke up in the middle of the night, retching. I barely made it to the edge of the couch before I vomited. The pain in my stomach was so intense I couldn't stand. I fumbled for my phone. It was 1:00 a.m. Danielle wasn't home. I called her, gasping into the phone that I couldn't move and needed the hospital. Ben's voice answered. "Look, Mark, quit acting like a child. My son has a legitimate injury and needs Danielle. Stop making up stories because you're jealous. She's busy. Don't call again." Click. The pain finally won, and I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. I could hear Ben's voice nearby, complaining. He knows he has a bad stomach, and he drinks like that? He's a liability. It's lucky you felt guilty and checked on him, or he'd have drank himself to death. "That's enough, Ben," Danielle said, her voice sounding frayed. "He's clearly upset I didn't come home. Go check on JJ. I don't want Mark to see you here when he wakes up." "Are you blaming me, Danny?" Ben's voice turned into a manipulative whine. "I know I've been a burden lately, but forget it. It's my fault for relying on you. I guess I'm just useless now that Rachel is gone. I'll just take my son and we'll survive on the streets. We won't bother you again." Listening to his poor me act made me want to gag. He was the ultimate nice guy manipulator. "Ben, stop it," Danielle sighed. "I'm just stressed. I'll always help you. Your husband. It's always your husband." Ben snipped. "JJ was crying for you to stay, and you're here for him? Can't you see he did this to himself, just to manipulate you into coming home?" The door slammed shut with a bang that made me jump. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. I felt Danielle's hand on my hair, stroking it gently. "It's okay, honey. Everything's okay." The doctor cleared me later that day. No permanent damage, but a strict ban on alcohol and spicy food. Danielle took a few days off work to look after me. When we pulled into the driveway, 2 people were waiting by the gate. The 2 I hated most. Ben and his son, JJ. JJ ran to the car the moment we stepped out, throwing himself into Danielle's arms. "Auntie Danny, you're back. We waited so long." Danielle picked him up, her expression softening instantly. "Careful, sweetie. Your ankle is still hurt." Ben walked over, wearing a sheepish, tired smile. "Danny, I tried to stay away, I really did. But I don't even know how to handle the house on my own. I'm trying to find work, but with school out, I have no one to watch JJ. I was hoping you could help out for a few days, maybe let us stay in the guest room until I get on my feet." I'd seen enough. Men can be just as manipulative as any femme fatale when they want to be. I cut him off before he could finish his sob story. "We both have jobs, Ben. Danielle has already missed enough work. We aren't a daycare. She can take time off for you, but not for a child." Ben spat, his nice guy mask slipping. "Do you even have a heart?" Everything I'd heard while I was unconscious, all the lies, the manipulation, surged into my brain. The blood rushed to my head. I didn't think, I just acted. I stepped forward and floored him with a single kick to the chest, then followed him down, my fists raining down on him. "He's killing me. Help! Someone help!" Ben screamed. Danielle was frozen in terror, unable to move. Since we lived in a high-end gated community, the private security guard arrived within minutes to pull me off. Ben's face was already beginning to purple and swell. "I'm calling the cops." Ben spat, coughing up a tooth. "You're going to jail for this, Mark. Just you wait." I lunged at him again, landing another blow before the guards could tighten their grip. "You come to my house and provoke me? I'll do it again." His son tried to punch my leg, and in my blind rage, I shoved him back hard. Seeing me go after the kid finally broke Ben's spirit. He scrambled up and ran for the gate. Ben grabbed his son and screamed at Danielle. If you have any conscience left, you'll get us to a hospital. If anything happens to JJ, Rachel will never forgive you from the grave. Danielle panicked. She looked at me, then at the car. She was already moving toward the driver's seat. Danielle, think carefully, I said, my voice low and dangerous. If you leave with them, we're getting a divorce. Mark, please. JJ looks hurt. I'll just drop them off and come right back. Then she was gone, the tires screeching as she sped away. Fine, I whispered to the empty driveway. You made your choice. We bought this house together after we started making good money. When we first married, we were broke. Danielle had ignored her family's disapproval to live with me in a cramped basement apartment for 2 years while we built our careers. I could afford to give her the house, but the thought of that man and his kid living in it made my skin crawl. I just buy her out of her half. She didn't come back that night. I spent the evening packing her things into boxes and stacking them by the door. She showed up the next morning while I was eating breakfast. She looked frantic. Mark, listen to me. I stayed because JJ was in bad shape. That kick was too much. The poor kid is covered in bruises. Listen to yourself, I said, setting my fork down. I kicked him once. He's covered in bruises? What am I, a martial arts master? If you want to find an excuse for staying out all night, try a better one. Your stuff is by the door. Go stay with your parents. I'll call you when the divorce papers are ready. She suddenly collapsed, sobbing, and grabbed my legs. Mark, please. I'm not cheating on you. You know, Rachel was my best friend. She paid for my tuition when I had nothing. Her last phone call before she jumped, was asking me to look after her son. I knew the story. They were roommates. Rachel came for money. Danielle didn't. Rachel had been her lifeline. Years later, after Rachel got caught in a toxic marriage, she called Danielle one night, crying and reminiscing about the old days. She'd ended the call by saying they'd be best friends in the next life. We'd spent that whole night driving around the city looking for her. We found out the next day she was gone. Since then, Danielle had treated JJ like her own. She'd even delayed our own plans for a family because of him. Then tell me the truth about our baby, I said. This is your last chance. Tell me exactly what happened. She looked pained. It was an accident. I fell at work, and it caused a miscarriage. I looked at her with pure disappointment. Still lying? Do you think I'm too stupid to call your office? Her face went pale. She slumped onto the floor. I'd gone to her office the day before. The truth was that Ben had brought JJ to see her. While Danielle was about to sit down, JJ had pulled the chair out from under her as a prank. She'd fallen hard, and that was the end of the pregnancy. The kid had cried, saying he didn't mean it, and Danielle, to comfort him, told him it was okay. She told him the pregnancy was an accident. Anyway, and that now she could spend more time with him. She was willing to sacrifice our child's memory to protect the feelings of the kid who caused the loss. I told her everything I knew. She just sat there on the floor, crying silently. I lost my temper. I dragged her toward the door and shoved her out, throwing her suitcases after her. I locked the door and ignored the pounding. The next morning, she was still there, curled up asleep on top of one of her suitcases. My heart twinged, but I shoved the feeling down. As I walked to my car, she scrambled up and blocked my path. Mark, I won't sign the papers. I haven't betrayed you. Think about everything we've been through. Please, just one more chance. How many chances have I given you? I didn't call you out at the hospital. I asked you about the baby, and you lied. I told you I'd leave if you chose them, and you walked away. How am I supposed to trust you? I'll never lie again. If I do, I'll sign whatever you want, I swear. Against my better judgment, I softened. I let her back in. For the next few months, Danielle was the perfect wife. She was more attentive and loving than ever. We regained our rhythm. She blocked Ben's number and refused to see him when he showed up at her office. Twice, when he cornered her on the street, she called me to come get her. I'd handle him, and we'd report to the police, though Danielle always begged me not to press charges because JJ had no one else. Then, Danielle mentioned a month-long international assignment. She even let me listen in on a call with her boss to prove it was real. Every night, we FaceTimed. There was no time difference, so it was easy. On her last day, she texted me that she was coming home with gifts. I decided to surprise her. I took the day off and went to the airport an hour early. I had a dinner reservation at our favorite spot. I stood by the arrival's gate, heart racing, waiting to see her face so I could jump out and surprise her. But I was the one who got surprised. At the back of the crowd, Danielle emerged. She was carrying JJ. Behind her, Ben was lugging 3 heavy suitcases. They were chatting and laughing, looking for all the world like a happy family returning from vacation. The bitterness in my mouth was overwhelming. I pulled out my phone and dialed her number. I saw her put JJ down. The kid looked exhausted and sat on the floor. Danielle made a shush gesture to Ben, stepped away, and answered. Hey, babe. Perfect timing. Cough. I just stepped off the plane. You went on this trip alone, right? I asked. Of course. I'm heading to the taxi stand now. I'll make you that seafood dinner you love tonight. I didn't say anything. Mark? You there? Her voice turned small and anxious. Danielle, look to your left. I watched her freeze. She slowly turned her head. When our eyes met, the color drained from her face. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered onto the linoleum. I gave her one last look of utter disgust and walked away. Mark, wait, it's not what it looks like. I didn't stop, though I found myself slowing down instinctively. Then I heard JJ's raspy voice behind me. Annie Danny, are you leaving me? You promised you'd take care of me forever. I laughed at myself. I actually wanted to stop and hear her excuse. Get a grip, Mark, I thought. It's over. I walked out of the airport, leaving the drama behind. I went to a small, hole-in-the-wall diner we used to go to when we were broke. The food was good, and the atmosphere was honest. I sat in a back booth and started drinking. Hours later, the door to the booth opened. Hey, can I get another round? I called out, assuming it was the owner. No one answered. I looked up. Danielle was standing there, looking like a ghost. Her eyes were swollen from crying. I ignored her and reached for my glass. She snatched it away. Mark, stop. Your stomach can't take this. I was wrong, okay? Punish me, but don't kill yourself. Wrong? You weren't wrong. I sneered. I'm the one who kept believing you. I'm the one who kept falling for it. I'm the idiot. I reached for another beer. She tried to grab it, but I gave her a look that stopped her cold. She watched me drain the can in one go. She dropped to her knees. Mark, please. I'll sign the papers. I'll give you the divorce. Just stop drinking. A few days later, we stood outside the attorney's office with our signed settlement. As we walked toward the parking lot, she caught my sleeve. Mark, can I just tell you why? Please. I waited. She told me the whole story. A few weeks before her trip, Ben had intercepted her after work. Before she could scream for help, he'd handed her a medical report. It was for JJ. The report said the boy had terminal stomach cancer. He didn't have much time left. Danielle felt she couldn't turn her back on a dying child who had no mother. JJ's last wish was for Danielle to be his mother for a while. So, she'd manufactured the international trip, using her own savings to take them on a month-long vacation to give the boy some final happy memories. She'd spent every night looking after him while he was weak. Listening to her, I felt a flicker of doubt. I knew a bit about stomach issues because of my own history. A child under 10 getting terminal stomach cancer? That was rarer than winning the Powerball. I thought back to the bruises Ben had mentioned, and how JJ always seemed to have little injuries that Ben blamed on rowdiness. And then there was the miscarriage caused by the chair prank. I suspected Ben was abusing the kid to manipulate Danielle's guilt. I told Danielle my theory. She shook her head in disbelief. No one could be that evil. Not to their own son. I'm just telling you what I think, I said. What you do with that information isn't my business anymore. A week later, Danielle showed up at my new place. JJ was with her, looking much healthier. She told me she'd investigated. I was right. JJ didn't have cancer. Ben had forged the reports. The bruises were from Ben beating the boy whenever he didn't follow the script to manipulate Danielle. It turned out Ben had been obsessed with Danielle since college. He'd only married Rachel for her money, and once he had control of her assets, his true colors came out. His abuse was what drove Rachel to take her own life. He thought that by using JJ, he could break us up and get Danielle to take over where Rachel left off, providing for him and his son. Danielle had gone to the school and talked to JJ privately. Once the boy realized he wouldn't be beaten if he told the truth, he spilled everything. The police arrested Ben. Between the child abuse, the forged documents, and the evidence regarding Rachel's death, he was sentenced to life without parole. Danielle bought a house in the same neighborhood as mine. She's adopting JJ now. She knows I can't take her back. The bridge is burned, but she says she's content just seeing me occasionally. She drops off extra food she's cooked, sending JJ over with it. We spend the occasional holiday together as friends. She promised me that if I ever find someone new, she'll step back completely and stay out of my life. I know that day will come eventually. I'll find the happiness I thought I had with her. Until then, we're just two people living in the aftermath of a storm. Story complete.